Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another film theory reaction. And this is, why do you still care about Gravity Falls? Man, God, Gravity Falls. I mean, me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Gravity Falls now, and I'm not saying that somebody was like, oh, they never really cared for it. No, like when it first came out, when it came out, I was in high school, and it was definitely it was very much one of those things that whenever I made sure to try to catch it as much as possible. Honestly, thinking about it, it was probably one of the first shows I ever actually did that consistently just on my own. Because before that, the only shows I really kept up religiously, were the shows that we'd sit down and watch as a family, like after dinner. Like it would be like Bones, House, Fringe, that kind of stuff. Gravity Falls was the first show I did that by myself. But then again, that was also a long time ago, and after the second season, I kind of started falling off. Obviously, I still love the series, though I haven't gone back and watched it in a while. But it's definitely not my, my go-to anymore. Though, of course, I still have a lot of good memories about it. And thinking back, I was so upset when I learned that that the second season was gonna be the last one. But at the same time, Gravity Falls didn't have that show that a lot of shows do nowadays, especially a lot of the stuff from Glitch and stuff like that, where they feel like they end so quickly. And I'm pointing mostly towards Murder Drones here because, again, Amazing Digital Circus isn't over yet, and Gaslight District and Knights of Guinevere haven't technically started yet. But I've said before that Murder Drones and a lot of other shows, specifically streaming shows nowadays, are just they are so afraid of quote-unquote wasted time. They have no filler, 8 episodes. They're so short and compact that you don't have a lot of time with the characters. You don't get to see how they react to certain events and experiences, and you don't get time to actually just be with them. Gravity Falls, on the other hand, God, how many episodes did each season have? They were full 24 episode seasons, weren't they? Yeah, let me double check this. 20, not 24, but still, each of those episodes was about half an hour, and so that's literally 20 hours of content right there. That's a lot of time to be with a character. So while I was sad, looking back on it, the show wasn't rushed. It was tied off very neatly with a bow. And while I have, over the years wished that the show would have continued either as a direct continuation or maybe a sequel series that, taking place several years in the future with the Pine twins being grown up or something, the show felt complete. But even then, again, so many lovable characters. Just going back to the question of the video, obviously, no matter how well, a show ends, it gets to the point where eventually you feel like you know these characters, that they're your friends, and you want to see more of them. You want to see them in new circumstances. And again, there's also with just the whole thing with Gravity Falls, there's the whole mystery aspect as well. God, they've been stretching out the whole thing whether Bill Cipher actually did die, which seemingly he didn't. So, is that going to come back at some point or not? In, an actual show? Don't know. But honestly, I have to say, the book and the website that they released a little while ago, those lit a lot of fires under a lot of people again. But yeah, I've talked long enough to probably get into the video itself. So yeah, we should probably get this thing started. So of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because over 3/4 of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I'd very much like that to change, because my next big goal is hopefully it's 6,000 subscribers this year. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Why is Gravity Falls still so popular? Why do we all still care about a show that ran for only 2 seasons over a decade ago? Was it the writing, the storytelling, the characters?
All of the above.
All of the above? Or is it what Gravity Falls teaches us about ourselves and the dangerous world around us? Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's searching for cryptids in the woods. Look, is that the subscribe button? Quick, click it before it gets away! Nice. So, at this point, we here at Film Theory are no stranger to Gravity Falls and its surrounding media. If you don't know, Gravity Falls is a series created by Alex Hirsch about the twins Dipper and Mabel Pines, spending the summer with their grunkle Stan in the sleepy town of Gravity Falls, Oregon. But, of course, there's magic and monsters and trans-dimensional beings in these woods, leading the family on adventure after adventure.
So many memories.
We've done a lot of theories about the series, and really dug deep into it last year when The Book of Bill, a novel written in-universe by the series' big bad, Bill Cipher, was released. What followed was a massive ARG that the entire Gravity Falls community came together to try and solve. But, of course, there's more happening with the book that may give us more clues and puzzles to solve. Yeah, believe it or not, but there's another edition of The Book of Bill about to hit store shelves as I write
Wait,
this.
really?
Limited collector's edition. You can tell this one's different because it's green.
And it also doesn't have a title. Why? What's so different about it?
Green.
No, but for real, this one is glow in the dark. It's gonna come with a bunch of posters and stickers and stuff like that, and is described as having, quote, more horrible secrets. So,
Okay, so it's coming with posters, so you know for a fact that those posters will have hidden messages on them if you shine a black light on them.
of course, you know that myself and all of our writers all pre-ordered a copy. This will be the third copy of the Book of Bill I own, which kind of makes it like the journals, huh? I legitimately have to wonder if that was intentional. Anyway,
Probably.
You best believe that we're going to be digging into this as soon as it arrives to see if there's any new secrets or threads to pull in our theorizing. I'll actually probably be doing like a bit of a first impressions thing over on my Instagram if you want to see that, at Forest First, by the way. But if you want to get in the trenches with a ton of other fans to try to solve this stuff first, please go check out the Gravity Falls subreddit and Discord communities and join in on that fun. There are awesome people over there. Anyway, as I've been waiting for my copy to get here, I've been thinking a lot about Gravity Falls, and, you know, it's kind of amazing that a series that ran for 2 seasons over a decade ago still has this much of a stranglehold on the wider theorizing community. And naturally, that got me wondering why. What has Gravity Falls done that's kept it at the top of mind for so many people?
I mean, thinking about it, Gravity Falls was actually, like, very much like the first time I ever really interacted with, you know, theorizing, you know, as we know it online today as a concept. Because, you know, like, you know, you'd always, like, watch shows, and you always had your own little personal theories, but I had never really kind of, before Gravity Falls, I had never really gone online to explore or see what other people thought of it. Because, like, this was 2012 to 2014, and this was before FNAF, which really kick-started, you know, online theorizing as well. So this very much kind of primed me for that way of thinking and just sort of online experience. Because, like, again, like, I remember the theories and the videos back then. It's like, oh, what's Stan doing? Does Stan have a twin? Oh, it's like what's behind the vending machine? That was the big one for the longest time. Oh god, it's bringing back a lot of memories.
Why is this show still popular? Why do you still care about Gravity Falls? So today, while I patiently wait for my copy of the limited collector's edition and a blacklight to arrive, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to start a discussion and really break down why Gravity Falls has had the incredible staying power it's had over the years. And I mean, there are lots of reasons why it's stuck with us.
I mean, actually thinking about it, another possible reason why it's had such staying power could ironically be because Disney really hasn't done anything with it outside of, you know, the novels and stuff recently. Like Disney had the show, and then when it's finished, that was it. Like they haven't milked the IP they haven't really milked the IP basically at all since it first came out. So like its thought and the memories of the show haven't really been spoiled by Disney being, you know, Disney.
But honestly, it might be even more popular the further and further we get away from it, because it's one of the only shows out there actually equipping its audience for the future. So grab your journals, loyal theorists, as we jump through the interdimensional portal to find out, why do you still care about Gravity Falls? Part 1, how it's made. Believe it or not, to understand why Gravity Falls hits so hard, we have to start our story all the way back in 2007, almost 20 years ago. Oh god. This was when Alex Hirsch graduated from the prestigious CalArts College and got his first job as a writer and storyboard artist on the Cartoon Network show The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. If you don't know, this was a surreal cartoon about a young sailor, a talking whale, and a pirate. We should really do a theory about this one someday, shouldn't we? Anyway, though Flapjack itself was short-lived, the influence this show had was massive. Like seriously, along with Gravity Falls, the creators of Adventure Time, Regular Show, and Over the Garden Wall all worked on Flapjack, and the crew was given a surprising amount of freedom by Cartoon Network. In fact,
honestly, I think that was, like, I'd have to see if I can find it again to put in the video here, but I remember seeing a picture that somebody made that was basically like a family tree of like what the creators and creatives who like worked on Flapjack went off to do other things, and it's honestly like the few examples they went there don't cover even the half of it. Like it was an absolutely gigantic family tree.
In fact, Cartoon Network was described as a Wild West during this period, allowing the shows being made here to get pretty crazy and work as fun factories for both their creators and audiences.
Jeez, imagine that when you let, when you actually let them make good shows, the shows turn out to be really good.
And you know what? That worked, like, super well. While Disney was dominating the youth market during this period, especially with younger girls, Cartoon Network leaned hard into programming for boys, preteens, and young adults. Not all of it worked. Looking at you, live-action shows on Cartoon Network.
Again, like, that's the biggest flaw of the Cartoon Network. Like, it's in the name.
But this let cartoonists spread their wings and tell edgier stories with more emotional depth. Case in point, the aforementioned Adventure Time, which was undoubtedly the biggest cartoon on the air because it combined its jokes with long-running storylines, horror imagery, emotional gut punches, and inappropriate innuendo. Disney saw this and they wanted a piece of the pie. It's a big reason why they also bought Marvel and Star Wars, but they wanted to try their hand at some original stories too. As the story goes, Disney actually reached out to creators like Hirsch for pitches, wanting to add them to their roster of talent. At the time, Hirsch wasn't super interested in creating children's content, so he gave them a very mature idea, adding details that excited him, but would be pushing the mouse's boundaries, fully expecting them to turn him down. But they didn't. Like, no matter how weird this pitch got, Disney was still on board. Oh, the grand uncle character is going to be morally bankrupt? There's weird mysteries that are going to take years to solve? The main villain is a two-dimensional pyramid man? Doesn't matter, we love it. And that was the best decision Disney could have possibly made. See, this show wasn't Alex Hirsch's attempt at making a Disney cartoon, it was Disney's pass at making an Alex Hirsch show. And that's the first reason why it's still so popular. At its core, it was something its creator wanted to make. And believe me, that style of show is popular worldwide. Part 2. Good lordy, the writing. Because Gravity Falls was very much a Hirsch first production, a lot of elements from the show are based on his own personal experiences. For example, Dipper, Mabel, and Grunkle Stan are all based on his family. Dipper is kind of a self-insert, Mabel is a loving homage to his twin sister, and Stan is his grandfather. The town of Gravity Falls itself was born from Hirsch's time growing up in the Pacific Northwest, my favorite part of the country, by the way, with even specific locations like the Tourist Trap Mystery Spot being recreated as the Mystery Shack. But this isn't just an author making fan fiction about his own life. No, inserting these themes is key to why Gravity Falls connects to its viewers.
Because it feels
Dipper
real.
And Mabel and their story all feel so special because they take us all back to an important time in our lives, when we were growing up under the same roof as our siblings and family. Now, some of us are lucky enough to live near families and to still be in contact, but others, not so. We've either moved away, invested in hobbies, gotten jobs, or started families of our own.
Honestly, that's kind of the thing. Like, I'm lucky. I still live within, a distance of some family, like my aunt and my grandfather. They live not a couple of hours, like less than an hour away, if traffic isn't doing too well. And like, I also have a cousin that's moved to the city here, because of, work with his, with his wife and stuff like that. But, a lot of my cousins, my aunts and uncles, they live at least, a couple of hours away from me. All because of, work, life, all that sort of stuff. And if it wasn't for, things like, for all of us getting together on, like, Thanksgiving and Christmas and doing, like, birthdays, because, like, that's the thing, like, with our family, we have, like, it's really weird where we, like, everybody in our family always seems to be born around the same day. Like, my cousin, my uncle, and one of my cousin's kids all have birthdays in October, with my cousin's kid also being born on the same day as me. So when we as a family get together to celebrate Thanksgiving, because in Canada Thanksgiving is celebrated in October, we also celebrate a bunch of birthdays, including mine, with the extended family at the same time. But just thinking, like, if it wasn't for those big celebrations, like, we honestly wouldn't see each other very often, like, at all. And it is kind of sad, because that's just how life is nowadays. It's busy with you forcing to bend to its will rather than the other way around, it seems.
Our preteen and teenage years were the last times we spent every day with our OG family, and for a lot of us, we've gone from hating sharing a room with our little brother who snores to only seeing them on holidays. Well, watching Gravity Falls feels like it's picking up right where these childhood memories left off, with your crazy siblings and kooky grandpa going on whimsical adventures, because that's exactly what this show was for Hirsch. Like, this show was designed to appeal to, like, the most people possible, but Hirsch wanted it to be relatable to everyone and connect to people emotionally.
And just a little extension of that, it appeals to everybody without feeling like it's being spread too thin, or it doesn't have very much substance. Because that's the problem with a lot of franchises nowadays, with, like, where you have, like, companies like Disney trying to, like, dilute the brands to the point that they're like, that they're palatable and likable by everybody to the biggest amount of people possible. Yeah, at the same time, when they're doing that, you're losing a bit, or diluting, what made the original, franchise or property popular in the first place.
That's why the show takes place during the last summer of Dipper and Mabel's childhood, as they're transitioning into teenagers, starting to gain more independence while still living relatively simple lives. And on top of that, it also captures a lot of other nostalgic feelings, like going to summer camp, hanging out with your crush, and learning about yourself. Though Gravity Falls does do this in a really smart way, externalizing those feelings into actual physical things in reality. But even on a meta level, Gravity Falls lives in this weird middle ground. As I'm sure all of the Gravity Falls superfans know, the show only had 2 seasons, and while it sucks that it ended so early, that might have been a giant blessing in disguise.
Again, what did I say? Like, it only had 2 seasons, but they were, like, classical television seasons. So each of those seasons had a lot of episodes. It's not like now where it's like, a full season is 8 episodes if you're lucky.
Like, it didn't live long enough to become corporate, for lack of a better word. See, the mouse is pretty selective about which properties it decides to really throw its weight behind. And if you don't live up to expectations, believe me, they are brutal and will cut you loose.
Also, didn't I say this exact same thing? Like, the reason why it's been so beloved is because, Disney really didn't, pay it that much attention.
Like, seriously, check out this theory we did last year about how they almost killed the X-Men in the comic books because they couldn't make movies about them. It's ridiculous. And though they did seek out Hirsch to make Gravity Falls, once it was on the air, they had gotten what they wanted. Especially with Marvel and Star Wars now on their roster, they had their boy and young adult-centric shows. And so, they let a lot of great series end a lot earlier than they could have. Stuff like The Owl House, Amphibia, Star vs. the Forces of Evil. You get the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I never watched The Owl House. I had seen I've heard both good and bad things about a lot of these shows. I mean, honestly, the one I know the least amount is honestly Amphibia. I saw it. I know there's one episode where they kind of have a semi crossover or pastiche of Gravity Falls with one character that's like a Grunkle Stan, but he's a frog. But like from what I've heard, Star versus the Forces of Evil starts pretty good, then kind of falls off a cliff, like storytelling quality wise. I mean, I didn't watch The Outlaws when it first came out, but I have watched it since, and honestly, like that's another one of those shows I'm really angry. Like I'm sad I didn't watch it when it was coming out, and I'm sad it didn't continue. Like I think there's like, are they making a movie still? I mean, the creator is currently on Knights of Guinevere, so that might be a little tricky. So I don't know.
Like to Mickey, if something isn't going to appear in their parks, which is their real moneymaker, why even bother investing beyond a couple of seasons? Remember how I said that this was more of a Disney version of an Alex Hirsch show? Well, this is why. If Gravity Falls had kept running, if we were on like season 10 of this show, you just know it would have turned into something completely unrecognizable. But instead, we got a show that concluded on its own terms, giving its characters and plot threads satisfying endings, all while it didn't talk down to its viewers. And
yeah, that's very important.
The fact that it treated like all of its viewers the same probably contributed to the next big reason it's still with us. Part 3, putting together the puzzle pieces. Now, when you hear good writing, you probably think of stuff like satisfying plots, great character development, funny jokes, interesting ideas executed well, and you'd be right. All of those things are great writing, and Gravity Falls has all of it in droves. But something else Gravity Falls really took advantage of was pre-existing folklore, fables, and fairy tales as the backdrop of its world. Like in Gravity Falls, magic is real, right? Not only that, but so are aliens, and ghosts, and garden gnomes, and cryptids, and all of the sort of stuff you'd normally see on some low-effort History Channel marathon.
Oh, well, God, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've never met anyone in my life who didn't wish at least one of those things actually existed in the real world. And like that would be true going back centuries and centuries. Now, this is great for a number of reasons. Like, first of all, most of these stories were originally told as ways to teach children life lessons in digestible ways, introducing them to the real world through the lens of fantasy. Like, think of Hansel and Gretel. The idea there is not to trust random strangers, go into their house and eat their food because they might not have the best intentions in mind for you.
God, oh God! When you put it like that, yeah, that's it. That is a very, you know, the story makes a lot more sense now. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the slightly bit previous point where, like, you know, it treated its audience with respect and stuff like that. Like I've talked about that before, and specifically to like why I and, you know, other people still do, like, you know, what is a kid's show like Thomas the Tank Engine, where while it was made for, you know, little kids, like I will not argue with you on that. It's the fact that, like, the writing, the way it was written, like, especially in the early seasons and in the books that it was based on, like, while they were written a bit more simplistically, they still treated, you know, the audience with respect. And they were also written in a way that they were still entertaining for, you know, the parents who were going to be reading them to their kids. And when you get that perfect mix right, and when you treat your audience with actual respect, that's when you get something good. Again,
That's awesome, and a great way to sort of recycle these ideas and stories into a new show like Gravity Falls, keeping all of the baggage that came with them before while also playing off of them. But Gravity Falls didn't just use these sorts of folklore and fairy tales and mysteries as its wallpaper. It was a core component of the show that was taken beyond the television screen. Yeah, instead of just being a show you could watch, Gravity Falls was designed from the ground up to have an element of audience participation with elements of an ARG layered in from its very first episode.
God, you know, I talked before about, you know, how Gravity Falls was like my first introduction to like online theorizing communities and stuff like that. And like, I think back, and the one I just remembered was that fake screenshot that I'm fairly certain Hirsch made and spread himself, where it showed a young McGucket, like a young old man McGucket as like the writer of the journals, when it turned out that was just completely false. Oh God, beautiful. We need more of that nowadays. We need more just false leads.
And though it wasn't the first show that incorporated an ARG like this, it was definitely the most popular and aimed at the widest audience. So for those of us who missed the show's original run, Gravity Falls always had little hidden messages or small details that kept viewers engaged and rewarded those who were really paying attention. For example, the time traveler Blynden Blandon cameos in the background of multiple episodes before his first real appearance in episode 9, where he ends up time hopping into those previous scenes. And this, my friends, is ultimately what converted viewers of Gravity Falls into super fans of Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
While yes, the story behind the show and its clever writing and the way it used folklore would get people in the door, but Gravity Falls took things further by encouraging its viewers to do more than just watch passively. It dared them to re-watch every episode, scan every frame, looking for mysteries to solve, and it even helped them develop new skills to do it. Early on, fans were drawn to the letters of gibberish that appeared during the end credits of every
ciphers,
episode.
yeah.
Though at first it didn't really seem like there was anything useful to do with them. But then, eagle-eared fans caught on to a clue: whispers at the end of the opening credits. Well, when you play this backwards, you're met with an interesting phrase: 3 letters back. Now, these days, anyone who's participated in a FNAF ARG can tell you what 3 letters back means. It's a clue that explains how to break a Caesar cipher, the encryption method where each letter of the alphabet is shifted in the same direction. So, this mess of letters from the first episode becomes Welcome to Gravity Falls. And once fallers caught on to this, they began to find clues everywhere. Soon, there were codes hinting at different ciphers appearing in upcoming episodes, and audio messages found within other episodes still. For many, this was their first encounter with this sort of interactive media and puzzle solving, and for others, it was a chance to put their problem-solving skills to the test every episode. And boy howdy, did this work. Gravity Falls got its hooks into people, looking for clues to mysteries that may or may not have even been there, trying to figure out the identity and the fate of the writer of Journal 3, or uncovering the truth behind Stan's secret passageway.
God, you know, just thinking back, like, I cannot tell you, thinking back, like, the realization that, you know, that whole Ben cipher circle that was in the intro, when it finally made its appearance at the end, near the end of season 2, when they were trying to, you know, seal Bill away, like that was epic. Just looking at it's like, oh, it's the wheel! It's the wheel!
Like that, get your mind out of the gutter. And keep in mind, this was back when the internet as we know it was in its infancy. Sure, plenty of shows like Twin Peaks and Lost had people on message boards or chatting around the water cooler. But Gravity Falls was one of the first shows to put this sort of group theorizing with the ease and accessibility of a smartphone. You could literally be live chatting on the forums or live blogging on Tumblr from your couch on your phone while the show was still on, a thing a lot of us didn't get a chance to do when our access to the internet was trapped in the family computer in the living room. But more importantly, what it did was to get people to watch the show, and then watch it again, and again, and again, and again, all in search of these clues. People loved this, and I cannot begin to tell you how effective it was. And again, it became more effective when Alex and his team brought it into the real world with something even more physical, with in-person ARG elements. Between seasons, the show's crew went on the Mystery Tour 2013, renting a van to travel to weird tourist traps along the West Coast and leaving small drawings of Bill's cipher behind them. And if fans could find them, they'd get a silly prize. Just a month later, when the crew was noticing that fans were catching on to Stan having a twin that wrote Journal 3, they decided to have more fun, faking a leak on 4chan where they posted an image of McGucket writing the journal. While that might sound deceiving, fans took a lot of pride in getting the creators of the show to go to new lengths in order to keep the show's big twist alive, and even then, to the crew's chagrin, several fans called out the leak as fake. This dedication to creating a living experience for fans to solve outside of the show would even live on after it was finished, with the great cipher hunt that we've covered a few times here on the channel, all of which led up to the Book of Bill's release last year and the ARG that followed. Now, we did several theories covering this ARG and the community's hard work decoding all of its puzzles, but needless to say, I think its success caught everyone at Disney off guard, since the book became a New York Times bestseller, moved more than 850,000 copies, and broke the website for the ARG. And while solving all of these puzzles is super cool, do you want to know what's even cooler? The fact that all of these hidden codes and messages in Gravity Falls actually taught kids how to think for for themselves. It encouraged them to use their imaginations. This show was basically like a tutorial on how to solve different types of ciphers, to think outside of the box when confronted with puzzles, and to look at people who might seem two-dimensional at first and to see them as the three-dimensional humans they actually are. And as the Gravity Falls fanbase got older, our itch to solve these puzzles remained. It shifted to channels like these, or to similar shows like Alex Hirsch's Inside Job over at Netflix.
God, I'm still angry that one was canceled. Ah!
Sure, but then we were reactivated by the release of Journal 3, the Blacklight Edition, the Treasure Hunt, the ARGs, the Book of Bill, and we're still hungry for it because the children don't yearn for the minds, we yearn for the mind. And that's a great thing because in this day and age, we need those skills. Part 4, it's what we need right now. I cannot stress this enough, but we're at a monumental, transitional phase in history. Gone are the days where we need to solve mysteries ourselves. Now we can just look up an Easter egg video on YouTube, check the wiki for details we missed, or ask ChatGPT if you're especially lazy. Reddit and TikTok sleuths are able to solve puzzles faster as a collective than folks used to be able to as individuals. I mean, just look at the incredible work of the Gravity Falls communities on Discord and Reddit when the Book of Bill came out, solving those super tough puzzles in like no time flat. Life used to hold great mysteries, cryptids, and places on the map that weren't filled in. Here there be dragons or the like, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Chris Angel Mind Freak. It used to be fun not knowing whether or not something actually existed and trying to find ways to prove it, but now nothing's a mystery anymore. A magician's tricks can be broken down in TikTok videos. The likes of the Chupacabra have been explained by science and history. UFO videos are easy to debunk with technology, and even then, well, personal story, but I used to get really excited by this sort of stuff. But now, you can show me video proof that an alien spacecraft landed in your backyard that would have been undeniable 20 years ago, and now I just see the After Effects and Blender tricks you use to make it. The truth behind all of those myths has been explained. With people more connected than ever before, with a majority of the world's information collected and easily accessible, with cameras everywhere and recording everything all the time, and the knowledge of experts put out there for anyone to learn from, the magic, the myth, the mysteries, they're gone. The X-Files used to say that the truth was out there, and now
it's out there.
Literally just a Google search away. But that's changing, and I have to wonder if we're going back into a new age of whimsy, a new age of the unknown. Now with AI more widespread than ever before, maybe we're going back and having sort of a reverse Bigfoot situation. Instead of all of this technology making it impossible for anything magical to exist and not be documented, we're circling back to the other extreme, where even the most mundane thing can be fake. It can be Photoshop or AI generated and leave us questioning everything again. And that right there, my friends, is the reason that Gravity Falls will continue to be beloved. Because it was already preparing people for this without them even realizing it. Preparing people to explore and question and solve mysteries, all while being emotionally resonant with what we feel as an adult. And right now, that's more important than ever, especially with the world's attention span and media literacy lessening day by day. Just saying you're not gonna beat Bill Cipher by doom scrolling. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up next on...
God, honestly, man, you know what? I said before, it's been a long time since I've actually gone back and rewatched episodes of the show. That might be something I do. Just look back and relive old times a bit. Because I remember having a lot of fun watching the show. Oh god, honestly, something has to be done about AI. Oh god. But yeah, that's definitely going to be it for now. So yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.